We're exploring the art of poetry in this week's episode of White Matters. I'm Simone Absalom Gayle, and we have with us in studio the founder and managing director of JAIKU, Miss Kacy Garvey. Welcome, Miss Garvey.
Thank you so much for having me, Simone.
When and how did you become interested in poetry?
It all started in 2008. It was my sister's birthday, and my cousin and I heard about this cool poetry open mic called Say Something Poetry that was happening in Orchid Plaza. And I figured you can't take somebody out to a poetry event on their birthday and don't write them a poem. So I wrote her a poem, probably a few minutes before the show started. And afterwards, the host of the show came up to me and said, "Who are you? That was amazing. Wow, like, you need to do this more often." And that's what really got me interested in exploring this art form more.
I'm so excited about this conversation, just to see that the passion for the art just came naturally to you.
Yeah.
And it was like history after that, right?
More or less, yes.
You were hooked. Who was your favorite poet growing up?
Funnily enough, I never had a favorite poet growing up. I've never formally studied poetry, but nowadays I've been finding myself reading Safia Sinclair, Nikki Giovanni, and a poet from Belarus called Valzina Mort.
Anybody from Jamaica that caught your fancy growing up? Because we generally, what I found is that while we don't study them per se, we do have personas that come up, that come into conversation in the Jamaican culture. So who do you remember hearing a lot about growing up?
Definitely. I mean, of course, you hear about Louise Bennett. That's a given. You hear about Muta Baruka. I mean, that's a household name. But of course, you also have some other poets who once you get into poetry, you'll really appreciate their art more and more, like a Lorna Goodison. I really love how she will be she's very playful with words and she's very warm. So every poem feels like a conversation on her couch. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
How do you think poetry fares today in terms of the cultural art forms that we practice here in Jamaica? We have dance, we have pottery, we have really fantastic painters, and we do have those subjects in CXC. But how does it compare to poetry, though?
I'll say that poetry is still lagging behind in terms of how seriously people take poetry. So, for instance, you have people who say they're a professional singer, or you're a professional actor, or you're a professional musician. But if you were to say you're a professional poet, people kind of look at you like, really, what is that? Like, how...
is that really a career?
Is that even really a career? Can that possibly be a career? So I think that while everybody enjoys poetry, because almost everyone I introduce myself to immediately says that, they used to write poetry or they like reading this, nobody sees it as anything beyond a hobby, which is unfortunate because every other art form is seen as more than just a hobby.
Is that why you founded JAIKU?
That's exactly why I started JAIKU. I really want to bridge that gap. I believe that if something can be valued, something can be paid for. That if people can see the worth of it, why shouldn't people be able or empowered to build a career off of it, especially if it's happening in other art forms? And I think now is the right time for it. A lot of what we've been hearing in policy circles as well is juicing the orange economy. So I really want to make sure that poets get a chance to participate in that orange economy as well.
What a wonderful way to ensure that a part of our culture remains alive, right?
Absolutely, especially in this age of digital erasure. They have all these things that are claiming to be Jamaican, all these AI tools claiming to represent parts of our culture, when we have actual flesh and blood Jamaicans whose voices still need to be heard and remembered and echoed throughout time so future generations can know the history, the richness of our history down the road.
Yeah, because I usually think that poetry is kind of like, well, it can be oral history, because a lot of the earlier poets wrote about what was happening in their lifetime, the shared experience, and that's a really fun and artistic way to pass along information, to pass along culture, don't you think?
Absolutely. I think it's not just fun, it's necessary. I think what makes poetry I guess both a beautiful and a difficult thing to manage is how easily accessible it is. You don't need an instrument, you don't need a guitar, you don't even need a pen and paper. All you need is your voice. And so that's what makes it so accessible, and that's why the little youth on the road have something to say. make him drop a poem. Or if you are a professor of literatures in English and you're teaching at at a big university, you have something to say to everybody can come to the table, you know. But at the same time, we also need to make sure that as we are embracing that accessibility, we don't lose the power of the artistry. You know, if it's being said, it should be said artistically, with effort, with technique, with a resonance, you know, to make sure that the power of the art is not lost in the importance of the integrity and the authenticity of the person speaking.
What a beautiful use of words. I like the way you coined that. Kind of like the word JAIKU. What's the significance of that name? That's unique.
Oh, thank you. So if you've ever heard of haikus from Japan, it's a style of poetry. It has a very set structure. Usually 5 syllables, then 7, then 5. But of course, there's a myriad of ways in which you can fill that out, right? So we just put a J at the front. So it's just haiku with a J at the front. It's not an acronym. And the meaning behind that name is to show that, you know, there's a structure. We want to create a structure for poets, but then we also want to enhance and celebrate the diversity. So there are so many ways to be a poet, so many styles of poetry, so many themes that poetry can undertake, but it all falls under and is supported by one core structure.
Oh, how old is JAIKU?
We're not even 2 years old yet.
So you're pretty new.
Very new.
So how has it been received so far in the art community?
It's been explosive.
Explosive?
Explosive. I mean, in just a year and a half, we have, you know, we sent a delegation to Carifesta in Barbados. I had the honor of headlining the poetry segment at the British Virgin Islands Literary Festival. I mean, there are several of our members who have won multiple awards regionally and internationally. It really has been a fantastic time, and we've been seeing a lot of the poetry community rallying behind us, saying that we've been wanting this for years. We're so glad that you're finally doing this.
And of course, you have an important week coming up in March. Tell us about the week.
Well, the week just started. So it's Kingston Poetry Week. And it's exactly what it sounds like, an entire week of events happening all around Kingston, all highlighting the power of poetry. A lot of it will involve fusing poetry with other art forms, whether it's poetry and jazz coming up on Thursday, or poetry and more like dub styles, you know, happening on Tuesday nights, or poetry and storytelling. So we really want to just show how diverse poetry is, and just again, the different styles of poetry that everybody can enjoy and participate in.
All right, we have a little taste for you. We have a little performance, so let's take it in and come right back.
Greetings. I go by the name Xavier, spoken word poet, hailing from the beautiful island of Jamaica. And this piece is entitled Tears. Xavier. Her tears fell, and I still remember the smell. Rah, with the wrath to rebel against the reason for her own existence. And as she gazes ahead to an unspoiled land, she recoils at the deed she must do. For on this island, anywhere her islands, her cries will howl like hungry winds sinking daggered teeth into dampened earth. Her tears trees from stone, fruit from limb, flesh from bone. She passes over her eyes flooded. For what her eye witnessed was sheer hell, and the wind shear made panic hearts swell on the wooden enclosure, clutching infants as the gale of her screams caused structure to fail. Lumber got torn from nail, mother torn from picnic, community torn from reality, senses torn from sanity. As we witnessed her sorrow soaking and choking mountains, so that with just a push the land slid, burying even those whose homes hid within the protective shadow of mountain. Her wailing strips the trees like fish scales. Her tears leave winter on this land. And as she leaves, she looks back and knows that her tears will dry, yet remain here for years. As lakes rose above places once dwelt therein, and thoughts rancid with the memories of what is no more now fills the bellies of my people. It leaks into our hearts, seeps into our bones, and now flows down our faces. In my people's palms were puddles of grief. But Prudence did teach that the days that make men cry are the days the strongest men are raised. For these very same tears flowed into loving rivers of relief, 'cause each one did reach one. In every corner, in every region, charity stretched forth her hands to wipe away our tears, so that these very same eyes could witness souls spinning themselves into thread, so that piece by piece we could be put back together. And as our vision clears, we can see the truth that we've known all too well, that whether we be torn or scattered, are still out of many, one people. Ixabir.
All right, that was Ixabir. It was very interesting, very dynamic fellow. How can one join the movement? Because I like this. I like this rejuvenation of interest in poetry that you're trying to inculcate back into our society. How can we join?
All right, well, you can find us on any social media platform that exists with the same handle, JAIKU Poetry. So that's JAIKU Poetry. And that's on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, anything you can think of, YouTube, you name it, JAIKU Poetry. And get in touch with us. We have monthly meetings on the second Wednesday of every month at 7 p.m. because we are also the Jamaica chapter of the International Poetry Business Network.
Wow, poetry as a business.
Exactly. Yeah, we're professional poets, so we have to take care of our business too.
You hear
So
that?
yes, so you can meet us every second Wednesday at 7 p.m. Again, find out the information. The link is right there on our on any of our social media pages, and we come together to brainstorm how to support each other in our poetry businesses.
All right, speaking of support, most writers, one of the challenges they have is publishing. Are you published as a poet?
I self-published in 2014 and in 2018.
How does that work? Because I'm asking for a friend. How does that work?
All right, well, I went through the National Library of Jamaica. You can apply for your own ISBN numbers, so I did that. And yeah, I mean, the process really isn't as complicated as you think it is. I mean, there are ups and downs to self-publishing, because when you self-publish, you have total control of your work, but then again, you and you alone have all the control of your work. So you don't really get the benefits of having, like, let's say an additional editor or someone to help you with distribution of your work. So I mean, there's an upside and a downside to it. But again, just start off at the National Library of Jamaica, and their resource center will be happy to help you, guide you through that process.
And of course, we can always join JAIKU and get guidance where that is concerned, right?
Exactly, yes.
You're doing quite a lot at JAIKU. What does success look like for you? What's your vision?
I'd say success for JAIKU is a small rural primary school on career day. And you have all the little children, probably 5 or 6, dressed up in their little costumes. And the teacher asks, what do you want to be when you grow up? And one will say, I want to be a policeman. Somebody say, I want to be a teacher. I want to be a fireman. And one child can get up and say, I want to be a poet. And nobody bats an eyelash. That is success for me. It's creating a Jamaica where if somebody is called to be a poet, they have the infrastructure and ecosystem there for them to flourish in what they're actually called to be, as opposed to sidelining their true calling in life and their God-given gift as a hobby. I want them to live fully as what they're made to be.
And for it to not be just a hobby, we have to take more interest in developing that aspect of art in our curriculum. Does JAIKU have a vision or any plans to, I don't know, partner with schools, going to schools and just giving some juice, as you say, to this art form?
Even if we don't do it on our own, I mean, I have my own idea of what I call the I'm a Poema initiative.
What is that?
So poema is a Greek word for masterpiece. It's found in Ephesians chapter 2, verse 10, that says that we are all a masterpiece created by God. And it's close to the word poem, so of course I'm going to jump on that.
Of course.
And just letting every child know that you are a masterpiece. You have amazing talents. You are inherently of deep profound value because you're made in God's image, and just letting every child know that they have a voice and their life is a word that has become flesh and walks among us. So I do want to go into schools and use poetry as a means of showing students that they have something to say, that it's worthwhile delving into this art form in order to be able to express what's on their hearts and whatever adventures God takes them on in life. So I want to do that. But I also want to make sure I don't reinvent the wheel and duplicate efforts, especially when resources are limited. So I know about the Nomadic Poets Tour that happens around every September or October, that's led by a group by the same name, Nomadic Poets. JAIKU has partnered with them before, and we want to keep partnering. And even in Kingston Poetry Week, we're going to be going to different schools. There's a poet, the head of Bermuda Voices, who's flying in from Bermuda just for this week to go into different schools as well to do master classes on poetry writing and poetry performance. So there's a lot going on that we want to join in and support, as well as, start new initiatives on our own.
All right, so as an artist, you have to be ready for anything, ready to perform, right?
Yes.
So I can't let you leave our studios and you don't give me a piece of your art, your personal piece. Take it away.
Okay, so this one is from my second album, and it's entitled Quick. To the saints, who are sinners who fell down and got up again, but whose heavy hearts still weigh them right back down to the ground. To those who've slipped 1, 2, 3 times, and even though you're forgiven, you still give in to the regret you can't forget. To those who are blood-bought, hard-fought, yet still caught in the traps of shame, let this one word redeem and restore you. This one word seep deep into dry bones. This one word call you out by name. Quick, for even discipline is not a denial of salvation or a delay of your blessing. Your Father's name is I am, not I will. So he will not wield time as a weapon against you or rub a ticking clock of shame in the wound of your guilt. I am forgiving you. I am restoring you. I am healing you because you are my child. Quick, you don't have to wait until you've cleaned yourself up first. Wait until God's anger has subsided. Wait as some kind of penance for your forgiveness, because Christ already bore the weight of your sin when he carried your cross that day. Quick, your Father has waited for you, not for your guilt, but for your repentance, not for your scorn, but for your return. Your Father has waited for you with a broken heart, but an unbroken gaze, sitting at his window, looking out for you. So while you were still a far way off, he could run to meet you with open arms. Quick, before the mud dries on his feet. Quick, before the stench of the pigsty soaks into his clothes. Quick, before his empty pocket fills his heart with lies that losing your wealth means losing your worth. Quick! Bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet. Kill the fatted calf and bring it here. For my son, who was once dead, is now alive. My son, who was once lost, is now found. Quick.
Emotive. Excellent. Woo.
Thank you.
You have me. I wasn't expecting that because the conversation about Christians writing poetry is not something that comes up a lot.
At all. Not at all.
What was your inspiration to write a piece like that?
Lots of times it's just something that jumps off the page. So it can be a phrase that I hear, or, you know, I'm reading it. And again, the word quick just was screaming at me one day when I was just doing my Bible study. And I said, why is that? And so normally I'll just sit, think about it, and then the entire poem comes in a few minutes. And then once I get it, I don't forget it. So I never rehearse poems.
And that's all the time we have for our conversation. But before we go, what word of advice would you have to a poet who, you know, they're one of those persons who's been writing, probably they wrote a couple, and, you know, asking for a friend again. Probably they wrote a couple poems, you know, when they were younger, and then they, you know, put it down and they're thinking about it, and they're, you know, thinking about a career or to just become known for that art. What kind of advice would you give that person?
I would say take yourself seriously and take your art seriously. You know, if you want to write well, read and read and read and read and read. And then also that no man is an island. Like if you're really interested in poetry, there's a whole community of us here who are happy and eager to meet with you and to support you and to help you elevate your poetry. So come and join JAIKU.
You hear that? Go and join JAIKU and just meet people who are of like mind, because poetry is an art form that's been here before us, before many of us. It's one of the oldest art forms in human history. So go and enjoy yourself, invest in yourself, and delve into your passion. Thank you so much for watching Why It Matters.